So
we are live. You're good to go.
Okay. Usually when we start the meeting, I'm kind of missing my gavel. So I went into our shop and I found this. So this is how we're starting the meeting. Okay.
Can I make you a gavel?
Like
Can I just make you one to have at home? I'll just make you a gavel.
Oh, this is
so
going to be
awesome.
fun.
Okay.
We have to improvise in these COVID times. I would like to welcome everyone to the May 5th, 2020 regular board meeting of Everett Public Schools Board of Directors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mason,
Present.
Vice President Lassane,
Present.
Director Berg,
Present.
Director Mitchell,
Present.
Director Nichols.
Present.
And did I see we have a student representative with us? Was Hannah?
Yep, sorry about that. Student Representative Chan,
There she is.
Present. Super Representative Hussein. Student representatives.
Okay, thank you. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Salzman, please introduce this afternoon's agenda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, public. The adoption of the agenda tonight contains the following: a segment for recognitions, the superintendent's report, segment for board comments, a segment for public comments, segment for routine business, segment for strategic progress monitoring, a segment for unfinished business, a segment for new business, and upcoming agenda items. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes have been made. Item 14.03, regular meeting, May 19th, 2020. The upcoming agenda items were revised. The board may elect to change the order of business by majority of the vote of the members. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by, let's see, Director Nichols and seconded by Director Mason to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion?
That was actually seconded by Director Mitchell.
Oh, thank you. Hearing no discussion, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. The motion carries and the agenda is adopted, which brings us to section 5.0 recognitions. And as you know, we've had to cancel many of our recognitions due to not meeting in person. And I think I can speak for many of you that these are truly a highlight of our meeting. So tonight, via Zoom, we have a special performance by the Jackson High School Chamber Orchestra. And I believe Miss Melanie West is going to introduce the piece.
Hello, I didn't know I would be on video. It's so good to be here with everyone today.
Hi, I'm Melanie West.
Okay. So the video says it all. It's just highlights of students' achievements in their playing this year. And I just wanted to thank the board so much for your support over the years. So thank you so much for taking time for us.
The Director of Orchestras at Gateway Middle School and Jackson High School. I hope you enjoy this video featuring the Jackson High School Chamber Orchestra.
Well, that was the best part of my day. That is impressive. I miss seeing it live, but I'm certain we would not fit all of them in the boardroom anyhow. So it's kind of cool to be able to see them all play together. Very inspirational, a lot of talent. So we will move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Salzman.
Thank you, and that was outstanding, and certainly what we all need at this time. First of all, to the public, I hope everybody's continued being safe and doing your part and thinking about everybody every day. But this is a great week because this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and that's what it's all about. And I'd like to just do some shout outs to all our teachers in the Everett Public School System. We appreciate you. We thank you. And especially during this time, you have just been a blessing to all of us. People like Carol Cummerly, who I was talking to the other day, how can I get another computer for my student? Wow, that's passion every day. Okay. Jennifer Russell at Cascade Elementary, just to name a few of the work that she does. Judy McWilliams at Hawthorne, continuously doing the great work every day. Scott Bowl at Gateway. Joanne McCandless at Garfield, Leanne Gregg, she does at Jackson, just to name a few, Jackson High. So we have the best teachers anywhere, and I want everybody to know that. So this is your week, teachers, and every day you're making a difference, and don't you ever forget that. And then finally, I was just thinking the other day, maybe feeling a little zoomed out or a little down like many people, but then I just found out the other day that we have served 102,000 meals to our community. 102,000 meals to our community. So I just want to thank the food service. I want to thank the school board because I don't think the public realizes that you don't do this without their support. And to our public that supports us every day, 102,000 meals means that we are making a difference. And I just want to do that. And then finally, because I don't know if they get the shout outs all the time, but the world of Zooming is different, right? And sometimes challenging just to get on. So to our technology department and to Ms. Darlene Vanegas and to Ms. Jamie Edson, I know we all appreciate you not only keeping our calendar, but making sure that we can Zoom all the time to get work done. So I thank everybody. And again, to our community, we're getting this done day by day, and there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. And with your support and guidance, we're getting things done for kids. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to board comments. And I think for sake of simplicity, we'll just do it alphabetically tonight. Since I can't see where everyone is, I have to scan my big box, all the boxes on my computer. So let's start with Director Berg.
Good evening. I just want to echo what Dr. Salzman said, and thank you to all the teachers. It's been an incredible few months, and as we started Teacher Appreciation Week, the first thing I thought of was every week and every day should be Teacher Appreciation Week. It's just been amazing, the amount of work that our teachers are doing right now, and it's a different type of work, and I think that just goes to show how amazing our teachers are and our staff, that they were able to be so agile and so quick with the changing environment and to really serve our students. Specifically, of course, a big shout out to the teachers at Heatherwood and at Jackson High School. Those are the teachers that have to deal with my amazing kiddos who sometimes aren't so amazing. And so thank you for all those teachers that continue to kind of put up with them and just walk beside them as they continue to learn. So thank you to all our teachers, and just whatever we can do, we're here to serve.
Thank you. Director Lassane.
Yes, I would like to also say thank you, teachers. Thank you, Miss West. I don't see her in the picture, but I hope she's still there for the work that you are doing right now with our music department and our kids at 2 schools. And it's hard to remember a time when we didn't have orchestra, because when I see them perform, it's as if they've been here for years and years and years. But I would like to say thank you so much to the music department. And I would also like to say thank you to all of our teachers. We appreciate you and we honor you for your hard work and your dedication, especially at this time when so much is needed of your support and your help to those students who can't show up every day to the classroom and have to see you in a little box on your computer screen. So thank you for the hard work that you do each and every day, and especially at this time. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to Zoom into one classroom next week. And I'll be able to sit in and see what the kids are seeing in a classroom. So I look forward to that. Thank you so much for your hard work, teachers. And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Director Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's been a couple meetings, so just really quick, I had so much fun passing out computers at Cedarwood twice, and to support the one-to-one when we first had to transition to this. It has been so hard, but to recognize all the teachers. Last week, oh, sorry, you get to see my dog. Becca came into my office and said, "Mom, you know, teachers need a raise." And I said, "Everett teachers are paid pretty good." But she said, "No, Mom, because now that parents are seeing their 1, 2, maybe 3 kids and how hard this is, they better appreciate how hard teachers are doing it with 30 kids in a classroom." And so everybody needs to recognize teachers for all the hard work they do. And I do want to recognize all the teachers for all the hard work they do. And standing in line last week and sort of the parent social distancing line at Jackson as the very sad seniors picking up their caps and gowns, and talking to a teacher from Penny Creek who said if Zoom was how she thought she was going to teach, she couldn't do it because she misses her kids touching them and seeing them and nurturing them so much. And so this is very hard times on all of our teachers, and I absolutely support every single thing that they're doing. And I just appreciate everything that we do for the public, for the good of the kids, the food, the mental health that they're getting right now too. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Nichols.
Well, first, that orchestra performance was phenomenal. I was really happy to see that. I was a band geek in school, still am a band geek, love music, love the arts in general. And so seeing that kind of dedication and that sheer talent that we have in our schools, to me, is just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Yes, I'll echo everybody's comments on Teacher Appreciation Week. Obviously we wouldn't be here without you. So thank you for doing everything that you do. Today I got to sit in on, be a part of the selection process for our new student representatives for next year. We interviewed 3 outstanding students. So we'll be looking forward to the results after they meet with Dr. Saltzman and get that announcement going. So that's all I have right now.
Great. Thank you for doing that. Looking forward to hearing more, or the announcement actually. Student Representative Tran.
Hi, I would like to start off by saying how grateful I am for the one-to-one devices. I mean, it's not great timing that this virus came this year as the same time that we got our devices, but it's been really helpful to stay in touch and connected to our education and our teachers and our friends through the use of our devices in Zoom and OneNote and Canvas. I would also like to echo everybody who talked about Teacher Appreciation Week. I'm very grateful for all of my teachers that I've had in the past 12 years. And I've started sending out graduation announcements. And I'm very sad that I won't be able to say goodbye to a lot of the teachers who have heavily impacted my education, but I'm very grateful for all of them. I finally made the decision to attend UW next year, so that is where I will be. I'm still going to be in town. And finally, I was able to participate in the graduation discussion that Dr. Saltzman set up. Thank you, Dr. Saltzman, for that. And I heard a lot of great comments from other community members and students from my school that this was really helpful in making sure that their voices were heard and that their ideas were represented. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I, of course, also want to echo the comments on teacher appreciation. I think this whole pandemic has only highlighted even more so the role that all our staff plays in supporting our community, both families and extended community. And I'm just so impressed and so proud, actually, of Everett, how we've responded to this and how quickly we've responded. So I loved seeing the music tonight, but I am missing all the celebrations. This is celebration season in our district, and this is when we recognize some of our best and brightest. And it's been hard not to be able to attend those and see the fruits of everyone's labor. I also wanted to expand a little bit on Becca's comment, actually. Our teachers are working so hard right now, and her comment about giving teachers a raise, I think is always a good conversation to have. But I also want to acknowledge tonight that in the consent agenda, we have administrative raises as well. And the importance of our administrators in this whole process too. These are the folks that lead the district and provide guidance and set the direction for the future. And I think sometimes as we talk about teachers, they get a little bit overlooked, but they're really just such a critical, important piece to our strategic plan. So wanted to mention that. And then just continue to jump on those WASDA calls once a week, and they've been extremely helpful in better understanding sort of the policy updates we've needed, the graduation waivers. There's just a lot happening that I don't think that the public understands on the back end of things like the hours and such, and really been helpful to guide us through those conversations and also find out what other districts are doing and get some good ideas from them. So really continue to appreciate those. So I guess that's it from me. So I believe Jamie, we're going to move on to public comments. And Jamie, is there anyone who has signed up to have a public comment spoken at our meeting tonight?
Okay. So Darlene is trying to talk, and I don't know what she's saying because I can't hear her.
Oh, Darlene.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Does that work? Okay. So we actually have 3 emails that we received. I'm going to share the first one. Is from Anne Marie Del Rosario. Hi, this might be a question for someone else. Here it is. But I thought I'd like to ask if we can narrow down how many choices of platform teachers can use as part of a backup plan next fall, especially for 6th grade and above. We parents and students needed a centralized location for Zoom times and dates, so our kids can't pull one over on us. I finally got it nailed down today. I'm happy to provide ideas for efficiency if anyone is interested. Anne Marie Del Rosario, she has parents of students at View Ridge, Evergreen, Cascade, Everett High, Snow Isle, and WSU, actually. So that is the first one. And I have 2 more. At this second one, I'm not sure. There wasn't anything on the email that actually said that this was for the board meeting. But I see that Dr. Fitzgerald has signed on and is watching the meeting with us. So I'm going to think that these emails she actually intended the board to see. So this is actually from Dr. L. Ruth Fitzgerald. All children wear seatbelts in all vehicles except for on school buses. I'm sure you've seen videos of children in accidents, or even hitting the top of the bus on bumpy roads. Whatever the arguments against seatbelts are, the argument for health far outweighs the negative. Not wearing seatbelts is a very bad example for our students. If the board is concerned about proper usage, install the belts on the front half of the bus where the good students sit and the driver, and observe the children. Please take no offense. Some of the kids in the back of the buses are simply very active and still are good students. The students feel safer while wearing seatbelts. The idea that the backs of the seats are soft for the kids to hit in a sudden stop is false. Just ask anyone who has hit soft water at a great rate of speed. In the interest of health and well-being, there should be at least 2 adults on the buses at all times. This can augment safety and decrease bullying. The 2 aforementioned ideas may seem impossible, but our children's health and safety is at risk. If the desire is great enough, the task can be achieved. This is from the grandmother of 3 students. So that was the second email. And the third email is also from Dr. Fitzgerald. And it is about safety before school starts. Especially when the lower graders are at the school doors, there may be no adults or teachers to watch over our children. I have seen several times when the little people were at the doors early while no adults were present. I dropped my granddaughters off. Then I went to the parking lot and watched and waited until adults came and stayed. Pay some of the faculty a little more to be at the school doors 30 minutes early for safety, or perhaps ask for 2 parent volunteers. And those were the public comments that I received.
Great, thank you so much for that input. We'll make sure that those all get a response after the meeting. So we are going to move on to the consent agenda, and then Dr. Salzman, can you please provide an overview of this afternoon's consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts and grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes includes items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding these items. Therefore, the consent agenda is presented as published for board approval.
Thank you. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mitchell to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing none, we will move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, no. The motion carries and the consent agenda is approved. We are now on to section 10.0, strategic progress monitoring. And tonight we have an update on college career and life readiness indicators. There are several presenters, and I believe Dr. Dana Riley-Black will introduce this section.
Thank you. I'm going to share the screen now. Good afternoon. I'm going to launch this presentation and then in a few slides introduce the co-presenters. Our objectives for this evening are to review and provide updates to our district's college, career, and life readiness indicators. And then we will highlight the intersection of these data and key programs and initiatives that foster this intersection, including our focus on social emotional learning, Naviance, students' high school and beyond plans, graduation pathways, and the College and Career Readiness Seminar. To provide a set for today's presentation, I would like to provide a brief reminder of our commitment to college, career, and life readiness. We strive to support our students so that when they graduate, the students have the academic knowledge, attitudes, and skills to successfully transition to college, workforce training, and/or employment so that they can pursue their goals. The commitment to college, career, and life readiness is a balance, with each area of focus providing support for the others. Dr. Catherine Matthews, our Director of Assessment and Research, will provide an overview of the college readiness indicators. And then Ms. Becky Ballback, Director of Student Support Services, will overview this year's life readiness indicators. Mr. Brian Day, our CTE Director, will introduce this year's career readiness indicators. And then Dr. Kathy Woods, our Director of College and Career Readiness and On-Time Graduation, will bring the presentation full cycle by providing a synthesis of the relationship across these indicators.
Thank you. Next slide. So we have a set of indicators for each of the levels, and I'm going to go through that data for you. The elementary school indicators, there are two research-based indicators that we monitor closely, being at standard in ELA and math by grade 3 on the Smarter Balanced Assessment with less than 10% absenteeism. In addition, social emotional learning development, particularly persistence, emotional regulation, attentiveness, and the ability to work with others are key indicators, and Becky Ballback will be talking more about those. Next slide. So this slide shows each of our elementary schools. They are in order of increasing free and reduced lunch rate. The bars represent the percentage of students who met both the at standard on the SBA in math and reading and the absenteeism less than 10% standards. And you can see in general that as free and reduced lunch increases in a school, those the percent of students who are college and career ready decreases. Now there are some notable exceptions to that. Whittier scoring a bit higher than the schools in its area. We also have several schools that have shown consistent increases over time. Cedarwood going from 84 to 93 in 3 years. Penny Creek 64 to 72. Whittier an increase each year, as did View Ridge and Lowell. We have some schools that have slipped backwards, and we're monitoring those. So go forward. At the middle school, similarly. Next slide. The standards are being at standard by grade 8 in the ELA and math Smarter Balanced Assessment, enrolling in at least one high school credit-bearing course, less than 10% absenteeism, and then indicators in the 21st century skills. You'll see that data as well a little bit later. Go ahead. So here are middle schools, also in order of increasing free and reduced lunch rate. The top bar, dark green, is 2018-19 data. So this shows the percentage of students who meet all of the 3 indicators. So being at standard, being enrolled in an advanced course, and that should say less than 10%, not 20%. Apologize for that. So you can see that overall, Everett Public Schools at 39.6, ranging from 58% at Gateway to 27.5% at Evergreen. Gateway and Heatherwood have been increasing over time. Eisenhower decreasing, and then North a slight increase this last year. Go ahead. High school is a little bit more complicated. Go forward. So for high school, we look at 5 different things: maintaining a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher, meeting the college readiness benchmark in evidence-based reading and writing and math on the SAT, meeting the college readiness benchmark for ELA and math on the Smarter Balanced Assessment, earning a qualified score in AP, and then meeting the college academic distribution requirements, the minimum for our state. Move forward. Because these are a little bit more complex, we don't have a single index for high school, but we look at each of these indicators separately. So what you're seeing here are the percentage of students who met the college readiness benchmark in the SBA. In orange, you will see the last 3 years, the last 3 graduating classes. For the ELA benchmark, you can see that's substantially higher than math, which is in the blue. And then overall, students meeting both benchmarks is in gray. So we have lagged in math. I've seen some increase. You'll notice that Jackson increasing each year for 3 years, Cascade increasing, but still substantially behind. Move forward. This is the percentage of students who met the 3.0 cumulative GPA by graduating class. Most recent class in orange, the class of 2019. See, Cascade is up, the highest at Henry M. Jackson, and Everett a slight decline over time from 41% to 36% this last year. Overall for the district at 47.6%. I should note that the college entrance for many of the universities in Washington State is 2.5, but the research really points to 3.80 as being the indicator. Move forward. This is the percentage of students who meet the college readiness benchmark in both evidence-based reading and writing and in math on the SAT. And as with the Smarter Balanced Assessment, ELA is substantially higher than math, which brings that average down. So when we look at both indicators, you see the high mark at Jackson at 48.5% of students meeting this standard. Overall in the district last year at 35.5%, really flat over time, however. Cascade slightly up, and Everett High, we've seen that same decline as we did in the GPA. Move forward. This is the percentage of students earning qualifying scores in our AP exams. And qualifying score is a score of 3, 4, or 5, and this encompasses all grade levels, 9 through 12. We do have some 9th graders in courses. So district-wide, 35.5%. Henry M. Jackson at the high at 45.6%. Slight decline there, about 5% at Everett High, and a 9% increase last year at Cascade, which really brings them above their 3-year average there. Go forward. And then finally, the college academic distribution requirements. So this is the percentage of students who meet each of the academic distribution requirements for admissions in Washington State schools. So the green bar represents science. You'll notice that that's very high. That's because we actually require the college minimum for our graduation requirements. World language, it's the lowest of all of them. We have seen an increase in that since we started to give the world language assessment for our students. And then it varies in the other subject areas. You'll see that students meeting all of the requirements range from 50 to 51%, Cascade and Everett High, and then at Jackson, almost 80% of students with the district average of 61.6. And it should also be noted that, of course, that doesn't mean that students who don't meet all these requirements cannot attend a college. There are other factors that are weighted in this decision. So move forward. And I'll turn it over to Becky.
Thank you, Catherine. Next, we're going to look at life readiness indicators. And the reason that these are important is because what we know about social emotional learning is that there is a direct link to academic achievement in college and career readiness. In order to be college, career, and life ready, students must first have their basic needs met. Our social emotional health is a prerequisite in growing college, career, and life ready graduates. And we know that healthy living enables students to pursue their goals. The neurobiology tells us that the gateway to cognitive skill development is our emotions, our capacities to feel, our capacity to regulate our emotions, our capacities to have an open brain. Well, I want to emphasize that much work has been done over the past 3 or 4 years to build multi-tiered systems of support that serve each and every student. Social emotional learning used to reside exclusively in the counselor's office and the counselor's domain. And over the course of these past few years, we are in the process of moving to a school-wide model where social emotional learning is taught in every classroom as a Tier 1 universal intervention in grades preschool through 8. In this way, social emotional learning can be more than just a 30-minute lesson. This approach infuses social and emotional learning into every aspect of the students' daily lives, across all of their classrooms, during all times, during the school day, and when they're in their homes and communities. And I want to add that COVID-19 has shown a bright light on our need for emotion education more than ever before, not only for our students, but for adults as well. During this time of school closure, the director of MTSS, Laura Phillips, and I have co-delivered weekly webinars on the topic of social emotional considerations in the time of coronavirus to all of our directors and facilitators in their weekly meeting, as well as to over 200 or 300 staff each week over the past few weeks. And we're calling those our Friday professional development, Friday fireside chat, if you will. And we are enjoying large audiences and just a real hunger there for learning more about emotion regulation and how that spills over into our education of our students. So the life readiness indicators that we currently measure through Panorama student SEL surveys administered to each student in grades 3 through 12 include self-management, social awareness, growth mindset, grit, and 21st century skills. I'll talk about 21st century skills a little bit later. You can go ahead and advance the slide. If you're looking at this slide, this shows the results of the Panorama Student SEL survey that was given to elementary students, grades 3 through 5, last fall. If you note, the blue bar on the left indicates the percent favorable. For example, a score of 78% means that 78% of respondents selected a favorable answer choice. The green dot indicates how this percentage compared to others nationally. And then the next score allows you to get a quick glance at how your topic scores have changed since the last survey, in this case, the spring of 2019. Changes are noted by the arrows on the graph. One thing that we need to remember is that for the elementary survey, students identify their ethnicity. We don't think that we have 105 American Indian or Alaska Native students. However, we may have more students who have some multiracial ethnicity. Next slide. For secondary scores, we download their demographics, so they are more accurate. All of these scores, if you'll notice, are up compared to last spring, with the greatest increase in teacher-student relationships. If you look on the right of the heat map, sense of belonging is high for EL students, but lower for others. But I noticed that it's coming up since last year. Next slide, please. These are the set of skills, our 21st century skills are the set of skills that the school board adopted as our 21st century skills. And one way we measure these is on the elementary school progress report. Next slide. These are teacher assessed. They don't exactly match up with the Panorama SEL data, but one of the reasons that we chose Panorama is that the survey does align with some of our 21st century skills, like growth mindset and collaboration. Both of these measures give us useful information. And now I will turn it over to Brian.
Thank you, Becky. Career readiness indicators builds on the work of college readiness indicators as well as life readiness. What we've attempted to do over the past 2 years is develop a set of indicators that can be used at the district, program, and course level to provide continuous improvement, guide decisions about resource allocation, capture progress, and help ensure we are reaching all students with quality career experiences. Next slide. We've divided our indicators into 3 categories. These categories describe a continuum of experiences for youth that progressively builds their career awareness and skills. So the top one right near there is career awareness. So those are opportunities for youth to learn about work by building awareness of a variety of careers. The second one is career exploration, opportunities for youth to explore career options in ways that motivate them for learning and provide information on career and education options. And the last one is career preparation. These are opportunities for youth to have experiences in the workplace or with professionals to learn work skills. Next slide. This slide lists the career awareness events that we track. Now, these experiences are in which students learn about careers through an event, field trip, or a guest speaker. The indicators in italics that you see there on the slide are indicators that I'll show you on the preceding slides. Next slide. This slide shows participation in the career awareness event Trade Up. Everett Public Schools partnered with the Snohomish County Labor Council, United Way, the Workforce Snohomish to host an all-day Trade Up event at a Cascade High School to introduce students, career specialists, and counselors to regional careers that are in high demand, specifically careers in the trades. Now, as you can see, the number of students participating over the past 2 years has come close to doubled. Next slide. This slide shows the number of students participating in the STEM competition, which has been held during the STEM Expo each year at the Angels of the Wind Arena. Students from elementary and middle school compete in engineering, research, and science experimentation. You can see that the number increases year to year with a decrease last year, and this was caused by schools not holding their school-based competition just prior to the event. We do expect the number to continue in an upward trend, and is an event that students look forward to. Next slide. The second category is career exploration. Career exploration is a more in-depth experience than a career awareness event. These events allow students to explore career options, interests, and provide guidance on high school and post-high school education options. These experiences provide short-term direct interactions with professionals and other opportunities to explore career options that motivate and inform student decisions about future careers. Next slide. So one of these indicators is AP enrollment. There are 12 advanced placement CTE courses that we offer at all our high schools. So AP Computer Science A, Computer Science Principles, AP Environmental Science, AP Macroeconomics, AP Physics, AP Psychology, AP Research, Seminar, Statistics, and 3 AP Art courses. This slide breaks down the scores into 4 performance levels. Next slide. A career and technical student organization is an extracurricular group for students in CTE pathways to further their knowledge and skills by participating in activities, events, and competitions. If this slide went back many years, you would be able to see a tremendous amount of growth in the number of organizations and the number of students. We've increased this a lot. Next slide. The third category is career preparation. Career preparation experiences are opportunities for youth to experience the workplace, earn work-ready certificates, or train for entry-level careers. Next slide. So this first slide under career preparation is work-based learning. So work-based learning provides students with real-life work experiences where they can apply academic and technical skills and develop their employability. You will see that we've increased the number of internships over time, and as well as the number of youth apprenticeships that our students are taking part in. Next slide. This slide depicts the employment ready certificates earned by students. All of these exist in our manufacturing and automotive courses. Now, it's important to note that we offer other recognized industry certificates in our CTE courses. These are the certificates that we've identified as industry recognized and provide minimum employment requirements. Next slide. This slide shows enrollment in Skill Center preparatory courses and is a very good career preparation indicator. And I remind you that we have 2 skill centers that we send kids to, Snow Isle and Wannick. You'll see several Skill Center courses have increased in enrollment. All of these courses have a requirement of preparing students for an entry-level position or dual credit aligned with a college pathway. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Kathy Woods.
Okay. To ensure our students are college, career, and life ready, we make explicit connections among the indicators so that our students are ready for transitions after high school. Next slide, please. We use Naviance to track and support our students' development of their high school and beyond plan. The Naviance framework supports students' attainment of knowledge of different careers and the educational pathways, including college, to achieve their career goals. It also supports the students' skill development, including social, emotional, interpersonal, academic, and transition skills. Next slide. The counselors collaborate with classroom teachers to engage students in developing their high school and beyond plan by learning about careers and post-high school education from 6th grade through high school. They develop skills such as goal setting, reflection, and exploration while integrating social and emotional learning. Next slide, please. The high school and beyond plan is a state graduation requirement and is tied to students' graduation pathways. Students have multiple pathways to demonstrate that they meet college and career readiness in both math and English language arts. If, for example, a student plans to enter a technical field, they can demonstrate their proficiency through the completion of a sequence of courses in that career and technical field, many of the courses that Brian was pointing out earlier. If they plan to enlist in the military, a qualifying score on the ASVAB, the military entrance exam, demonstrates their career readiness. If they plan to pursue further education in 2- or 4-year colleges, they demonstrate readiness through their qualifying scores on the Smarter Balanced Assessment, college entrance exams such as the ACT or the SAT, or by earning credit in a dual credit course that offers both high school and college credit in math and English language arts, or through advanced placement course or exam taking. So you see that many of these are tied in with the college and career and life readiness indicators that Becky and Brian and Catherine talked about earlier. Next slide, please. Typically taken during the senior year, the College and Career Readiness Seminar provides students structure and guidance on those transition steps, completing the FAFSA or the WAFSA, applying to college, applying for apprenticeships and for employment, and also teaches financial literacy, all the while attending to students' social and emotional learning needs. Though this course is taken towards the end of their K-12 experience, the focus on career, college, and life readiness is an ongoing process integrated throughout students' education in Everett Public Schools.
Thank you for your time this afternoon, late afternoon. As a brief summary, we reviewed the key performance indicators around college readiness, life readiness, and career readiness, and then depicted the relationship across these indicators.
Thank you. Can we go back to the full screen so I can see
Absolutely.
directors if they... So directors, if you have a question, go ahead and raise a hand and then I can see who is interested in speaking. Okay, Director Berg, why don't you go ahead.
So thank you guys for that presentation. It was very informative. I've just got a couple of questions. One is, if I'm reading this right, we've got about 64%, or not even 64, like 51% of our district kiddos who are meeting standards at the end of 12th grade, but yet we're graduating 95%. I guess I'm trying to make sense of those. That would be my first question. And I was looking at the high school indicator slide when we look at percent of graduates meeting college and career.
That was actually
ready.
my questions as well, or observations. You know, we're as low as 50%. It is, it's
well,
not,
even lower.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. I was looking at, my question was related to that of how many, you know, at a state level and nationally, what percentage of students go on to a 2 or a 4-year institution? Because we're, you know, between 50 and I guess district-wide 60-some% in having students prepared to actually be able to apply to a 2 or 4-year college.
And I guess part of my, not to pile on, but like part of my issue is, so we've got that number, but then I know I've seen 9th grade numbers when I look at OSPI data. Those numbers tell us that we've got a large percent of 9th graders that just aren't on time to graduate. I mean, it's a huge gap. And I've kind of looked at that gap number, which actually makes sense with this number, that we've got maybe 51% of folks on a good day actually college and career ready, but now we've got 95% actually graduating. And the feedback that we get from community colleges, the feedback that we get from community partners is that our kids aren't ready. And it's not just for a 4-year or a 2-year college, but they're just not ready. So I guess how are we looking at these numbers?
Yeah, so you're looking at a couple of different data sets. So you're probably referring to the OSPI report card with 9th grade on track to graduate. And so that metric is any student who...
Catherine, I'm sorry to interrupt. Your voice is very faint, at least on my end.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Use your playground voice.
Use my principal voice.
Yeah.
So the metric that you're referring to is probably the OSPI report card, which is students on track to graduate in 9th grade. It's a part of the Washington School Improvement Framework. And students, it's the percentage of students who earn every single credit in 9th grade. So as you look toward graduation, of course, we have lots of ways that students make up that credit, which is not to say that that means that they would necessarily be college ready to graduate. It would say that they have earned the credits required to graduate. And of course, a credit could be a student who has earned D's in their coursework. So that, of course, would mean that they're less academically prepared. So you're right, there's a discrepancy there. And it is different metrics though. What qualifies for graduating might not qualify for being an entrance to college. And then to your point about 2 and 4-year colleges, and Jeannie or Dr. Willard or Dr. Woods could probably give you an exact number. Everybody knows I don't like to estimate, but ERDC and the state, our enrollment in 4 and 2-year colleges is not 95%, as is our graduation rate, to your point.
And I guess what I'm looking at is that gap, because the 9th grade makes sense, moving from 9th grade to these numbers of like 51% being college and career ready. But now we've got 49% of these kiddos that have an Everett school district diploma who are not college and career ready. And so what are they ready to do? And I think that I'm just trying to answer that on my end. And then also as a district, what are we doing for this 49%, which is a big number to put in the community at the same time that we're kind of waving our flag going, woo, we graduated 95%. It's like, yeah, I can't make sense of it in my head. So just any help would be awesome.
I can respond a little bit to your question about how many students go on. District-wide, it's about a third, and a third. About a third of our students go to a 2-year college. About a third of them go to a 4-year college, and about a third of them go into the workforce or other kinds of, the military. About 5% go into the military. So about a third of them do not immediately enter either a 2-year or 4-year institution.
Okay. I guess my last thought or question, or I'm not sure how to pose, I'm gonna have to chew on all this data, because I've looked at those numbers as well. I've also looked at the 8-year numbers, so what our kiddos are doing 8 years out, and even the ones that are starting those schools aren't finishing them. And with our cohort of districts, I think we're right near the bottom in terms of folks that are actually getting a 2- or 4-year degree after even entering it, so that number even goes down. But sticking a pin in that, the other number that jumped out in the presentation was the passage rate on AP classes. And that really struck me because we hang our hat a lot on APs. And if I read that correctly, we've only got right around, was that like a 40-some% passage rate on AP classes?
So that's
45%?
The percentage of students who earn a qualifying score on an AP exam.
Yeah,
so not
which would be like a 3.
In the class takes the test. So not 100% of our students take the test, number one. But you're right, of the ones who take it, and it varies by topic, but you're right, they're not all earning qualifying scores.
Okay, and I just want to put my 2 cents in because I've talked to a lot of parents about this, and that's very, to be honest, they feel like they're sold a bill of goods about AP because these are kiddos that could be doing solid A work, solid B work in a traditional setting, a traditional classroom that could help them in college, get into college, especially colleges like UW that look at a comprehensive student, the whole student when they're looking at it. And sometimes when they take that AP class freshman year, they get a bad grade and it kind of just sinks their morale, it sinks their self-esteem. And so if we're not seeing the numbers on the back end of pushing so many kids into AP really quickly, we might want to rethink that just so our kids can actually succeed in classes and get that self-esteem up from success. But also being really frank, like that chart should be shown to parents before enrolling in those classes, to be really frank about what that means. Taking this class is not college credit. It's simply the ability to get college credit. And guess what? Less than half of you are going to get it. And that's going to be a whole different mindset for parents placing their kids in these very, very stressful classes. That's all I have.
Thank you. Would any other directors like to comment or have questions?
Yeah,
Director
this is,
Mitchell?
yeah, I just have a question that is probably, it's broad and hard to answer just given this time, because I appreciate the comments about this really has shown some of our gaps with the coronavirus. But I've heard talk out there in the news about, which one of them I do not agree with, do kids need to repeat this whole year because they're only missing, that quarter of a year seat time? But how are we assessing, especially for, each of our kids, our plans for September to reassess them or, catch them up to some of this stuff? This is some super speedy catch up for many of our grades, many of our grades, all of our grades, if not all. And I really struggle with how this information is going to look next year, and what we can do to mitigate it best we can. Is it more staffing? Is it more time? Is it more technology? What really do we need? to make sure that our kids at least maintain this level given the circumstances and don't fall so far behind that it'll be harder to catch up from. And it's a heavy lift, and you're all are doing an amazing job. So I'm not putting more work. I'm sure you're already thinking of it. I want to make sure that our kids are, you know, and can continue to grow even given the circumstances.
I have a feeling that's a topic on everyone's mind right now. And probably not one that's easily answered right at this point. Other director, or did anyone want to respond to that? Or
well, I would like to just talk a little bit about K-5 because we, you know, of course, we have a diagnostic assessment in reading and math. We'll be pushing that out for home proctoring in June so that students' learning path can be reset over the summer and students will have access to that all summer. Then we'll retest again in September. So I have a pretty good idea both of where they were when they left and their fall score. And, you know, we just really have to do everything that we can to help kids get caught up.
thank you. Director Nichols, did you have?
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that, because my concerns are exactly in line with Director Berg's, one of the things that I was hoping to see during this presentation was, so what are we going to be doing about this? And maybe that's something for a future presentation, but we definitely have gaps. I've always been concerned about the quality of our graduates, given that number that's coming in, because as we pointed out in this, you know, D's get degrees. So we want to make sure that we are actually helping students master these skills. So what are we doing? Well, like Jackson seems to be doing really well comparatively to the other ones. So what lessons are we learning from Jackson to bring to the other schools? Is it a cultural difference? What are we going to do to address these shortfalls that we're seeing?
I'd like to, Madam Chair, may I have point of privilege to make a comment or two?
Please.
Okay, and I'll also have staff, CAO, and deputy speak up after me. To everybody's point, we still have a long way to go. We celebrate successes, but we have a long way to go. To Tracy Mitchell's point about more staffing and more, teachers have done amazing work. It's not about the more, it's about sound practices every day, right? We just talked about the cabinet because I want to be real to the public. All the work we're doing is really good, but kids are going to be behind come next year. All right, let's not sugarcoat that. So what do we do? And it starts at kindergarten through 12th grade. So the same plan we have for graduation rates, we should have for literacy and mathematics. And then when we talk about advanced placement, it may not be for everybody, but the opportunity should be for every student. And then the good practices for advanced placement, because if we have more kids in advanced placement, doesn't mean the score should be skewed. Sound teachers that are teaching those advanced placement courses doing a great job, which they are. We should continue the rise with advanced placement, okay? If we have a 51% or a 61%, but at the end is a 98%, we're missing the purpose of what we have to do, right? So there's remediation and acceleration, and it has to come together, right? And what is our reading plan in place? What is our math plan in place? And then when we share with you as a board and when we share the academics, these are collaborative discussions that you see, okay? But we have gaps, they're real gaps, and they are sometimes what you would call socioeconomic gaps, okay? And we have to bridge we are one district, and we always have to remember that. So we have to put a laser focus on what we have. The more will never be better, right? More doesn't make better. It's being laser focused, having our plan. The expectations are clear that this starts in early literacy. And I just want to reiterate that because when you see this kind of data, it is a what I would call a sounding board to figure out what we got to do better. And if we accept that we've done really well, that's not the way we should think. So we're going to continue pushing it. We're going to continue having a plan, and it's called monitoring, right? It's called monitoring and bridging the poverty gap, because when you look at our district, you can look at Hispanic, you can look at Anglo, you can look at African American, but I think if we put a socioeconomic lens on it and really take it at that approach, we'll move all kids, not certain groups of kids.
I would just underscore that point about investing upstream in early literacy and numeracy, and so that's a concerted effort to look at leading indicators. I would also say that in this time of closure, to Director Mitchell's point, to pay attention to those priority standards, to prioritize those core essential standards that kids need to know and be able to do. And then, as Dr. Salzman mentioned, to progress monitor that. But also just to underscore the addressing of the gap head on, that disconnect between our end of the line indicators like graduation rates, that they don't reconcile with other rates of performance and proficiency is a problem.
What piece I'd like to add is on the shoulders of what Dr. Scott and Dr. Salzman have mentioned, but one of the other pieces I'd like to add is the data that we'll have access to as we move forward into the future, as our state really does start to have more of a focus on career connectedness, especially with Inslee's initiative around Career Connect Washington and legislation that didn't pass this session, but the prior session on building the data infrastructure to be able to track where a student goes career-wise. I think we'll be able to see perhaps a little bit different picture than what we're able to paint right now. As well, we are, I hope, is taken away from this and other presentations, building that infrastructure to have college as a choice, but also to have other work-related experiences to carry one forward into their life and career.
So I just want to kind of push back. I appreciate all the responses thus far, and I understand that we do have to start early to kind of see this improve in the future. But the kids in the now, the kids in high school, 9th grade, 8th grade, 7th grade, what are we doing for them? What are we going to be doing for them to close these gaps? That's what I want to hear. And I don't obviously expect you to have an answer for that right now. But when we do these progress monitoring is great. But if we are not developing a plan forward that I can see, that I can speak to, what is it? What are we monitoring? Why are we monitoring it? So going forward, I would love to see more kind of solution-focused type of presentations.
And I would just like to add one thing, especially because we're in that season of registration. I would just implore you to reach out to the high schools to really make sure they're not pushing kids into these AP classes, especially because we're going to have some gaps in learning. I know that everybody thinks that the only way you can get into college is to take AP courses. But I think having some type of transparent conversation with parents, or just some kind of letter going out saying it's okay, there are other options. All of our teachers are fantastic. These are great courses. And the whole point is learning, not preparing for some high stakes test that statistically speaking, your child may not pass. Really putting that realism in front of them, especially in this time. And just the last note on that, because I've got two Husky graduates in my household, neither of which did AP classes at all. They both got into their major, because as we know with Huskies, you have to get into your major. And a lot of kiddos coming out of severe AP and IB programs did not get into their major their second year at UW, because they were burned out from all of the high stakes tests and all of the ridiculous amount of pressure they were under pre-entering into UW. So I just really implore you all to reach out to parents and be really honest with them about their options and opportunities for their kids.
Go ahead, Director Lassane.
Okay. I go back to the high school indicators. I'm not quite sure which page it is on, but it was a couple of years back, we had the discussion, what does it take for students to be prepared and able to apply to college? And that 3.0 GPA, cumulative GPA, was brought up. And if we are graduating, about 66% of our class, our students are going on the 2- and 4-year colleges. When you start looking at those numbers being, let's just look at class of 2019, and I do understand that, you know, this is in the past, 2019, but when 49.1%, 36.7%, 57.1% have GPAs of 3.0, and 66% of them are going on to college, it doesn't seem to me that we are preparing our kids for what they need if they choose to go to college. At least the GPAs aren't there. I had asked once before, some years ago, well, what percentages by ethnicity are receiving 3.0 or better? So that we can say, are we preparing kids across the board? We need to know also that information so that we can say if we are graduating all of our kids college and career ready. If they choose to go on to college, will they have the GPA to get them to college or not get them to college? You know, does that make sense?
Yes, I think you're, yes. Student Representative Tran, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
It was a very thorough presentation. Thank you very much to the presenters. I would also like to echo what Director Berg was saying. My parents, neither of them went to high school in the US, and so both my brother and I were pretty blinded in the selection of courses, and the pressure to take AP classes is just as Director Berg was saying. It's very strict, it's very rigorous, and I've done pretty well in most of my classes, but I know that a lot of my classmates were put under the same pressure, and I'm sure that many students would have liked to see these statistics as well, to see exactly what they were going into and their chances at succeeding in those courses realistically, without just simply the pressure of taking AP courses. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this presentation has certainly sparked some robust conversation, and I think there's certainly a couple messages that are consistent through all our comments. I did just want to address the AP from a slightly different perspective, because over the years I've had an opportunity to see students who perhaps didn't have the advocates for to encourage them to take an AP exam or to take an AP course. And this is, in my mind, very similar to the fact that we're now testing all folks for the highly capable, because not everybody has an advocate that might be able to identify an individual that could be successful in that program. And I think it's just a very tricky balance, and I think we've been learning a lot throughout the years, and we're definitely hearing more feedback, but it's a balance, because there are students who don't think they will ever be successful in AP, and no one ever encourages them to do so. And they do get into AP, and with the proper supports can be successful. And so, you know, it sounds like maybe the pendulum swung slightly too much one way, but I also am very proud of the work that we've done to bring AP to all our students and to give them that opportunity. We need to get a little bit better about maybe our selection process going forward, and I think sharing the data is helpful. But I wouldn't use the data as a deterrent to discourage students out of taking AP. It's a very tricky balance, I guess, is what I'm saying. And so I'd like to see us continue to encourage students, but it sounds like maybe in a different manner or different supports along the way. And I can also say, as a parent who has had 2 students who have taken quite a few AP exams, it literally will save us thousands of dollars in college tuition because they were able to waive out of courses. They potentially could complete a degree a year early because of it. And it has opened up opportunities to take different classes in college rather than take the foundational requirements. So there are definitely upsides to the AP as for students who are looking to go on to 2- and 4-year institutions. So I wanted to share that because I'm really happy my students took a lot of AP classes as a parent. And then I think the only other comments I had that I want to make is I want to point out the work that has been done in our career connected learning and in our social emotional supports throughout our district. That's something that really didn't exist when I came on. Well, it existed, but it looked very different when I first came on the board. And I've watched both those programs really grow into something that I think is making a significant difference for our students. And the fact that we look at some of these numbers and we know that a lot of our students aren't going on to college, that we are providing genuine and wage earning options for those students to go into our communities and be successful. And so I'm really proud of that. But they never say, you're not supposed to say but, because then that negates what you just said. So, and in addition to that, to Director Nichols' point, I think what was missing from this presentation for me was the why behind some of these numbers. So we look at the ELA. I was especially surprised by the ELA scores in high school that are all decreasing. Our math scores are improving, but they're all very low to begin with. So I mean, it's certainly a celebration when we're moving in the right direction, but we do have work to do. But I don't have any understanding of why our ELA is going down and why are our math scores going up. And I think that providing that information to directors is extremely helpful in helping us better understand how we can support you. So when we look at the budget, where are the supports that we can put into place? Is this an issue of teacher capacity, turnover? What are the reasons why or that you folks that do this work every day, what are you understanding about what we need to do going forward? And it's not an easy question to answer, but it's just completely missing from the presentation. So as we look at these strategic progress monitoring, I think a better understanding of why. We don't need to get tactical about what we're doing day to day, but just the big nuggets to help us better understand what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, so that we can help you going forward. So I'll just one last, if any directors want to make a final comment before we move on.
I just want to, I appreciate that, Director Mason, that what, like when I said, what do we need more of? I guess I appreciate your saying, what do you need of us? So thank you so much.
And I just want to say it was a very good presentation. I really did like the fact that we did include, like you mentioned, the social emotional, but also the career readiness aspect of it all. It's good that we do that because it is all connected. It is a triangle that's connected. Each part is connected. And I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone, the presentation and the data pulled together. It's very helpful. So with that, we're going to move on to section 11.0, and that's information and discussion. And tonight we do not have an information item. So we are going to move on to our unfinished business. And tonight, Mr. Gunn is going to walk us through the approval of Resolution 1230, Unlimited Tax General Obligation Bonds. Mr. Gunn.
Okay, thank you and good evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, please. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is, I'll go ahead and proceed. Let me know if someone is not able to, please. So tonight, I'm going to present for your consideration, and we're going to ask for your approval as well of Resolution 1230 Capital Bond Proposal to place a $317.4 million capital bond on the August 4th primary election ballot. This capital bond proposition, if approved by the voters, would authorize us to issue $317.4 million in bonds maturing within 20 years to be paid from collection of property taxes. This proposal is based on a recommendation from the district's Capital Bond Planning Committee, which was presented to the board at its August 2019 summer workshop and approved actually at its August 8th, 2009 regular board meeting. So in October 2019, again, the board approved the resolution placing this bond on this bond proposal on the April 2020 special election ballot, and later rescinded that due to the COVID-19 concerns and postponed the bond to a future election. The next election is, at this point, is the primary election on August 4th, 2020. And the deadline for submission of ballot measures for this election ballot is May 8th, which is this coming Friday. So now I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Capital bonds represent the primary source of funding for our capital construction projects in the school district. We have some other sources, capital levies and some other funds, but by a large margin, capital bonds provide the money that we need to build new facilities, to buy property, to modernize facilities, and to do major upgrades to our buildings. We've been fairly successful in the past. Since I've been here about 30 years, we passed, I think, 5 or 6 bonds, failed 3 or 4. And the most recent one we passed was 2016. And we are still, we're about 4 years into that and have another 2 or 3 years left to go. This document that you see the picture of here is a project scoping and cost estimate. It was about a 100-page analysis of the projects and the estimated costs for the projects that the Capital Bond Planning Committee considered when it put together its recommendation that you saw in your summer workshop in 2018. This Capital Bond Planning Committee was established at your direction in November of 2018. It met 6 times from November of 18 through June of 2019, and we presented to you at your August 2019 work session the recommendation of the committee. We have synthesized down into, I think it's 6 bullets here. I'll just go through those briefly. So if you look at the actual projects that are in there, these messages here, these are the themes that are represented in that bond recommendation. Something for everyone across the system. So we have projects in the north end, central, and the south end. So everyone can see something for their region in that bond. High school boundary changes provided temporary relief to the overcrowding at Jackson High School. So what this means is that the bond recommendation did not include a new high school, as had a couple of our recent proposals. One of the points of the recommendation is that it includes elementary school additions rather than new schools. And one of the primary reasons there is that additions are less expensive to build per classroom than new schools. Also, facilities for STEM and career pathways. We'll cover a little bit more of that here coming up. And then also, as usual, we are replacing or repairing aging schools and building systems. And then this last point is do not go for the maximum bond size. When the committee started its work, they were told, based on an analysis of our tax rates and bond capacity, that district could afford to go up to a bond proposal of about $400 million and still not see an increase in the tax rates. And one of the things that we've prided ourselves on is that we really work hard to ensure a stable tax rate over time for our taxpayers. So this bond proposal coming in at 317.4 is less than the maximum that it could have been and still maintain that stable tax rate. And I'm going to briefly go over the projects. As you can see from the right-hand side, it indicates which region of the district these projects are located in, so you can see they're spread out. Okay, the first one is to add 36 new elementary classrooms at 8 different schools. We are continuing to grow at the elementary level in particular, as well as our other grade levels, but certainly elementary school space is at a premium. So this addresses that need. We are also, in this proposal, replacing 3 aging elementary schools, Madison, Jackson, and Lowell. Those schools, in addition to replacing them, we would be expanding their capacity to the, for the 3 schools, a total of about 22 elementary school classrooms beyond the current numbers of classrooms in those buildings. So ultimately, the number of new elementary school classrooms in the bond is 36 plus the 22. So it's 58 new classrooms when you add up all that. Into the modernizations, that's a big part of this bond proposal. Modernize and expand the Cascade High School Science Building for science classrooms and aerospace and advanced manufacturing, the career connected pathway. Modernize Everett High School Vocational Building for the medical and health careers pathway. Upgrade 6 classrooms at Jackson High School for science and information and communications, career connected pathway. And modernize classrooms and cafeteria at Everett High School auditorium building. It's not the civic auditorium, it's the rest of the building around the civic auditorium, including the kitchen and the cafeteria. Continuing with the modernization projects, we would be upgrading the cafeteria and kitchen at Cascade High School, as well as the interior and exterior finishes at the science building in Everett High. One of the mainstays of our bond program is that we want to try to continue to improve our building systems. So we have upgrading HVAC controls at 6 sites. We're replacing roofing at 5 schools and flooring at 2 schools. We would also continue with our safety and security upgrades across the system. Fencing at Everett High and Cascade High, upgrading security systems at 11 sites. Access control systems at Everett High and Cascade. That's one of those components of our 2016 levy program that we were not able to put in at those 2 high schools, so we would be expanding it to there. We would also be replacing lock sets and keying systems district-wide. That's at all grade levels in all buildings. Upgrading fire alarm systems at Mill Creek, Silver Firs, and Everett High School Science Building, and then expanding the parking lots at Jefferson and Emerson. They're listed in here under safety and security because those parking lots are way undersized. So we consider it basically a safety issue that we expand the capacity of those parking lots. Also, replace aging playground equipment at 8 elementary schools. 2 or 3 years ago, you made a strong statement that the district should be building and maintaining playground equipment at our elementary schools. So this is in recognition of that. Also, the synthetic turf and track at Memorial Stadium football field is worn out, and we need to replace that before it does become truly more of a safety issue. And then also the Cascade High School softball field and dugouts that has significant drainage problems and is not safe to play on when it's really wet. Then also we are continuing to upgrade technology infrastructure, electrical systems district-wide, and then student information system, upgrading that, modernizing it. Again, the total $317.4 million. We have a graphic that illustrates the career pathways at our 3 high schools. Again, we've already kind of gone over those a number of times. But basically, the district staff got together with community business leaders and government leaders in the area and identified high demand areas that in the business sectors that we could build career pathways around, and then are expanding or building those programs at our 3 high schools. The bond program would basically give us the money to build and upgrade our facilities and purchase equipment in our high schools to enable us to implement and expand those programs. So this is a chart that has a lot of complexity. It's very simplified at the very top with those 2 bullets. Basically, it shows that we, if you look at all of the local school related issues, which are our regular operations levy, our capital levy, and our bonds, if you add those all together and then build a tax structure to pay off the bonds over time, we build all that in there, and we're able to show that right now in 2020 we're at a estimated $4.88 per thousand tax rate for these local school issues, and even with passing the bond, we will be able to slightly decrease that down to $4.78 per thousand of assessed valuation for taxpayers. This is obviously a schedule that shows the 4 election dates allowed during the course of the year in our state. As you can see in the August 4th election, the measure is due May 8th, this Friday. Election day is August 4th, and then elections are certified by August 18th for that election. So kind of a summary of this resolution, actually, I'm sorry, we have a mislabeling of that. It should be 1230. We used an old slide and didn't update the resolution number, but it's 1230. Capital bond proposal of $317.4 million. Bonds financed by property taxes paid off over a 15 to 20 year period. We tend to pay it off sooner than is required. We have actually 20 years to do so. We typically sell these bonds in 3 or 4 increments of between $50 and $100 million per bond sale. So we'll do that over the course of the bond program. We anticipate potential state school construction assistance program funding of about $36 million. The resolution that you will be asked to consider approving spells out how that money would be spent if we didn't get that. And then ballots will be mailed out July 16th. This is, we're an all mail-in ballot state, so that's the big day for that election. And then election day is August 4th. And just kind of a reminder, I'm sure you all know this, but for capital bonds in our state, it requires that a 60% supermajority of the votes that are cast have to be a yes vote in order for us to pass this bond. So in summary, I'm requesting that you approve Resolution 1230, placing a $317.4 million capital bond proposal on the August 4th, 2020 primary election ballot. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Gunn. Can we go back, can we close the presentation so we have the people back on and I can see who might have questions?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Nichols.
So, and I know we've kind of talked about this ad nauseum as far as, you know, is this the right time to introduce a bond given what's going on? So, and I'm still, you know, kind of struggling with that because, you know, we're looking at estimations from UW that, you know, death rate's going to start going up. This COVID-19 situation is going to play out a lot longer than everybody's thinking. So with that in mind, our school infrastructure, the things that this bond is designed to do, if we don't put it on the ballot, if we don't pass it, what does that mean for our school district? Does that mean we are going to have unusable buildings within a couple of years? Does it mean that, you know, we're going to have significant overcrowding? Just kind of, I need to understand, obviously there's lots of upsides to it, but kind of the immediate need for this.
I can answer. Let me try this. I would say our buildings continue to age, and ultimately, we have an obligation to provide free public education to the students that live in our school district. So we will do so. Ultimately, if the capital fund is not able to keep the buildings in operation, then that obligation financially would fall to the general fund. So ultimately, the general fund, which will, as we all are hearing and understanding, will already be under quite a bit of stress due to the challenges with, as an economy, as we start up again. So basically, the capital fund will help in a way protect the general fund from that impact. I would say that our classrooms will continue to get larger. So our class size would increase because we wouldn't have the additional space, especially at the elementary, to handle those. And then some of our facilities, like the Memorial Stadium football field, we would certainly have to replace that, or else just not play on that field at some point. We also would see our heating systems start to either fail and need emergency type repairs, or else we would have to go in and reallocate some of the funding that we had earmarked for other projects. You start to enter into basically an emergency or crisis response mode in your facilities program, instead of moving more towards a proactive stance where we try to repair systems when they're getting old before they break down.
So essentially, we're looking at a domino situation, right? So,
Director Nichols, can I speak to the sort of overall fiscal outlook of the district, and in brevity, just say that if you recall, in 2014, we didn't have voter support at the, I would say, the more favorable circumstances after the Great Recession. And as a public entity, we have to understand, and I think if you looked at a municipality and you have a fleet of 100 police cars, and you know that if you have 100 of them, you know they're going to last 5 years, you know you have to pay to keep that fleet going. We're in a situation where, because of 2014 and 2018, we're about 2 cycles behind. And I would suggest to you, as board members, we have to pay it forward, and we've worked really hard to maintain a stable tax rate. And in fact, we can say your taxes will not increase in 2021. To forgo this, you're pushing the burden onto future generations, and we don't know what the economy is going to occur. We didn't know we're all of a sudden going to dip in. So the work that's gone on, I can't tell you how to vote. Just know that we can't, I don't even want to use that term, but it's important to understand and consider that fleet of buildings just like a fleet of police cars that are so essential. And when the time comes, your general fund will not have the resources to do what it may need to do.
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Do any other directors have questions or comments?
This is Director Mitchell, and I just I appreciate Director Nichols' concerns, because I have similar concerns. But we've been here. I've been here since the second 14 failure, the 18 failure. We are just so far behind. Thankful for the 16 passage, but just the fact that, too, what are the opportunities that this construction could bring, both to the economy and to this community, and hopefully the benefits of the construction outweighs some of the concerns, and the fact that we have done such a great job. And I continue to be thankful for the committee that helped prepare this proposal to keep us at that stable tax rate, and even that 10 cents difference. But every 10 cents per thousand is important to every single one of our families. So thank you.
Director Lassane?
Yes, I'd like to also say that I am very much aware of the fact that, you know, in 2014 and 2018, we were not successful with our bond passage, and that we are behind in needing the, fulfilling the requirements of maintenance for our buildings. But I know we need that. I know that if we don't continue to provide the maintenance necessary, when we are able to do it, it would be very much more costly than it is right now. But I am very much aware of the fact that our families and our citizenry has endured a lot of sacrifice in these last few months. Some have lost their jobs, some have have not received any of their income from their jobs, and we don't know when this is going to be over with. But I can also see that the rate will not go up, but we do know that it will still be a continuation of taxes that they currently are paying, even though it will be less, which is a good thing. And we don't know what the future is going to bring as far as EMS or police departments having more requirements also, which will cause a total increase in everybody's taxes. But we must maintain what we can do. That is something we can do. We have to do that. We have to make sure that our schools are safe, our schools are adequate for learning. And that's what is important. But I do also understand the sacrifices made by our citizens in regards to this pandemic. Some have lost jobs, some have lost livelihood, some are struggling right now. And I am very much aware of that. Thank you.
And I would just kind of like to follow up on what the other directors have said, but also as a member of the bond committee that put together this package, and we really did work hard. The thing about that committee was that it was made up with community members from all over, stakeholders from all over. So I really feel like it's a great package with a lot of community input. And despite the pandemic, this is absolutely the right time, not just because of the needs, but because of the jobs it's going to provide in our community, and really building up our infrastructure for years to come. So it's a win-win in so many ways, and taxes aren't going to be raised as a result. So I'm excited to vote to put it on the August ballot, but I just want you to know from that committee standpoint, it really, the committee took into account everybody's opinion and thoughts, and that's how we came up with it.
Thank you for that background. It's something that occurred to me. We've talked about the safety of our students being sort of paramount right now. And one of to Director Nichols' questions, one of the significant pieces of this bond is to reduce the overcrowding at our schools. And I don't know at this point how many of our schools are at or over capacity, but it's almost all of them. And as we look to move forward, and social distancing and space is actually one way that we can overcome the issues of having to close our schools. I look at this in new light, the bond, in sort of a new light of being able to provide some of that as we move forward in our world, that we don't know that there's not going to be another situation like this. And this will help prepare us in the future and create that space that we need for all our students. Because if you look at the growth charts, we are growing and we are going to continue to grow. There's no real relief from that. So while we are not in our school buildings right now, they are still a really critical and important part of educating kids. And we need to look to the future, not just the month ahead or the 2 months ahead that look a little bit grim right now. I'm looking at this as a long-term, 10-year program of keeping our schools safe and space for everyone. So do directors have any further questions or comments before we move forward? Okay, at this point, I would like to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 1230, Unlimited Tax General Obligation Bonds.
I move to approve.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, no. The resolution is approved. Thank you, Mike,
Yeah, thank you all very much.
for the information. Okay, at this point, we're going to move on to section 13.0, new business, and we have quite a few new and updated policies to review this evening. Many due to the changes occurring because of building closures and the move to online learning. And Mr. Fleckenstein, our policy pro, is going to take us through that. And I am going to suggest, unlike in the past where I typically introduce one and then you give us the background, if you want to just go ahead and kind of keep moving because I think some of these are fairly repetitive, especially in the early part. So if you're comfortable with that, I'll just turn it over to you.
Absolutely, yeah, and I will present all the new graduation-related policies to competency-based credit as one package for the board's consideration this evening. So the novel coronavirus outbreak has created extraordinary challenges for school districts across the nation. In response to these challenges, the State Board of Education adopted emergency rules that allow school districts to apply for an emergency waiver of credits, including core course credits. The purpose of the emergency waiver is to protect students in the graduating class of 2020 or earlier who are on track to graduate from being negatively impacted by the governor's COVID-19 emergency proclamation on February 29th of 2020. The State Board of Education's emergency waiver, which expires on the 31st of July 2020, requires school districts to make a good faith effort to support their students in meeting graduation requirements through existing local authority before using the emergency waiver. After districts have made this good faith effort to support students in meeting their graduation requirements, districts may use the State Board of Education's emergency waiver to seek a waiver for any remaining unmet credits. To help meet the prerequisite of the board having to adopt an authorizing policy prior to implementing the emergency waiver of credits, including core course credits, presented this evening for the board's consideration are 6 new policies based on the WASDA model policy for specific subjects to award students with competency-based credits that meet high school graduation requirements. Those new policies are 2401 English Language Arts, 2402 Math, 2403 Science, 2404 Social Studies, 2405 Art, and 2406 Health Fitness. To be clear, these new model policies and their related procedures for competency-based credit presented this evening are not temporary or time-bound only to the class of 2020. They do not sunset or expire. These are tools for the district to award credit and can continue to use them to benefit students beyond the class of 2020. The new policies presented this evening, policies 2401 through 2406, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Do any directors have questions regarding these policies?
I guess I don't have a question specific to the policies, but just a question I have that kind of goes back. But since these are mostly for high school, if I understand it right, how are we going to assess that a student who's in pre-calc now is ready for calc next year, who's in biology is ready for the next level next year, given this coronavirus? How are we assessing that they met the requirements to actually be successful in the next level? I know that doesn't have to do with the policies. It is just a question about sort of that assessment part of it.
Staff, I'll let you answer that, Catherine or Dana.
Yeah, so we've developed priority standards, and alongside of those priority standards, priority snapshots, that is the guidance for what teachers will teach in their classrooms for the remainder of this year. If a student engages in that work for the remainder of the year, they'll have readiness to move into the next class. That said, next year's class won't probably start in the exact place that we would have started in a prior year. We'll have the makeup of the beginning of the year will look different than in prior years.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, we will go ahead and move those policies to second reading at the May 19th regular board meeting.
Thank you. In addition to the new policies just presented, revisions to policy 2409, granting equivalency credit, includes new language for the awarding of equivalency credit for the CTE requirement that corresponds with the new policies, while also allowing for competency-based credit for a computer science course. As with the 6 new competency-based credit policies I just presented, this policy also is not temporary. It does not sunset or expire, but is another way to continue to support our students with flexible ways to earn credits for graduation. Revisions to policy 2409, granting equivalency credit, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this policy? No? Okay, we'll move that one to second reading as well and move on to the next one.
Proposed revisions to policy 2410, high school graduation requirements, align with the recently completed rulemaking by the State Board of Education to reflect the provisions of House Bill 1559 seated within Washington Administrative Code, Chapter 180, Section 51, which gave school boards local authority to waive 2 of the 24 credits required for students to be eligible for graduation. However, the same legislation required that districts adopt a waiver policy to do so. Revisions made and presented this evening to policy 2410 fulfill this requirement and are representative of how the district can demonstrate a good faith effort in taking steps to support students before seeking use of the emergency waiver. Proposed revisions to policy 2410, high school graduation requirements, have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
I have a clarifying question. So we are now, all classes at this point need 24 credits to graduate. So this is a waiver to the 24.
The waiver originally was, you're right, starting with the graduation class of next year, 24 credits is the graduation requirement.
But it would apply to this year. So potentially the students that only need 22 this year?
Yes, so the waiver process, which is now embedded and presented to you in policy 2410, includes the ability for the waiving of up to 2 credits.
Okay, I was just trying to keep track of which class was on what number of credits. So it's 22 this year and 24 going forward. Okay, I'm seeing head nods. Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions? Okay, we will go ahead and move this to second reading.
Okay. Proposed new policy what was that? Oh. Proposed new policy 3423, response to student injury or illness, addresses the expectation for response to student injury or illness at school and notification of parent guardians for both emergency and non-emergency health-related situations. This is a WASDA model policy that supports and correlates to the next new policy on our agenda this evening, policy 3425, opioid-related overdose reversal. Proposed new policy 3423, response to student injury or illness, has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
Any questions? Seeing none, we will move this to second reading.
Okay. The proposed new policy 3425, opioid-related overdose reversal, is to comply with Senate Bill 5380, opioid use disorder, which requires school districts with 2,000 or more students to obtain and maintain at least 1 set of doses of opioid overdose reversal medication for each of its high schools by the start of the 2020-21 school year. It is important to note that if a district makes a good faith effort to obtain the medication but is unable to do so successfully, that they would be exempt of this requirement. Further, Senate Bill 5380 directs that in addition to a school nurse, other school personnel who are designated and trained may also administer the school-owned Noxalone medication on school district property. Policy 3425, opioid-related overdose reversal, has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Are there any questions on this policy? Director Lassane? Director Lassane?
You're on mute, Pam.
I'm sorry about that. My question, when we talk about train staff personnel, what does that include? Who's included in that? Are coaches included in that? Are health teachers included in that? Are science teachers, English teachers, who's included in that? Because if you have an individual who's over in one part of the campus that needs the medication, no one's trained with, that's supervising that class or that student, and you have to wait for somebody from the office to come to that student. Are we putting that student at risk? Now the question is, how many teachers and who's going to be paying for the training to apply that? And it may be very easy, but I don't know, to apply the drug.
To answer your question about administering the drug, just some background on Noxalone. It is a nasal spray that is administered. Staff would be trained or need to be trained by our nurse supervisor, who does our training to all of our nurses and to health room assistants. So as the law stipulates, anybody who is appropriately trained to administer this can administer the drug. In terms of the drug itself, we have a medication in schools policy, Director Lassane, where any medications that are prescribed or of this nature are to be contained in a secure environment and inventoried on a regular basis. So in terms of the location of the drug, we already have a policy that has to secure its location. We wouldn't be able to have, in multiple locations all over the campus that are unsecure. So if we have a student who unfortunately would be in a situation where they are having an overdose to an opioid, I would already say that we have not directly put them in danger. They are already in danger in a position that they've placed themselves. But this particular compliance with the law, first step is to secure the medication itself. And that would be our first step, is to see whether or not we can secure the medication. This policy is to comply with their process to do so. And then we would develop more explicit procedures around who is trained, how many people at each site. That goes in concert with our medications in schools policy.
Okay.
Larry, I would just add that it is likely on the first page there in those 3 bullets, it's likely going to be a school nurse and or a health room assistant in practically speaking.
Yes, I would agree.
Director Mitchell?
Yeah, and it's actually state law that the medication needs to be locked up. That's not just our policy, that's state law. My second question is, do we know the current rate of opioid overdoses that are happening within our schools that we've had to call 911 for, that this would help save lives? Because I do support this because it does save lives, but do we actually know do we have a problem?
It's not information, Director Mitchell, I have readily available tonight, but I can contact our nursing supervisor and get that information and provide it to the superintendent.
We'll have staff get that information, Director Mitchell, and we will get it to everybody.
Director Nichols?
I just think that if we can't get it, but we don't have an issue, then it might be okay. But if we have an issue, then there is definite urgency. So thank you.
So, sorry, I was having microphone issues. Going back to the first aid piece, had a question about do we not currently have a requirement that teachers are certified in basic CPR, first aid type things? Do we have like a certain number of outside of the nurse that they're given basic training?
Yeah, we do have first aid CPR training and throughout the year for staff. That has always been a part of our district policies to do so. This is, we took this opportunity to adopt the previous policy that I presented for response to student injury or illness, just to ensure that the opioid-related overdose reversal policy and procedure is directly aligned to the illness or student emergency response because of a medication issue. We just wanted to make sure that they were both well aligned.
Understood. Understood. Okay. And to Director Lissane's concern, having this medication on campus it means it's going to be administered indeed faster than calling 911. So if you have to wait for an ambulance response, we're going to be able to get that medication to a person that needs it much more quickly, even if it is across campus.
Correct.
That's a good point. Thank you. My only question was similar to Director Mitchell's is, have we ever had an overdose? And that would go a long way to better understanding the need and the need for training as well. So sounds like that's an easy follow-up, or maybe not easy, but a follow-up question for everyone.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, we will go ahead and move policy 3425 to second reading.
Thank you. Revisions to policy 3510, associated student bodies, address RCW 28A 325-010's authority to charge fees for optional, non-credit extracurricular events, typically through an associated student body membership, and also to address the districts may waive or reduce ASB fees. The proposed revisions to 3510 align to the existing language in Board Policy 3520, student fees, fines, and charges, which also allow for the waiving or reducing of student fees and fines to create a more equitable option for students in a situation who cannot afford to pay for a fine on their account. Proposed revisions to policy 3510, associated student bodies, have been reviewed by legal counsel and superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Directors, any questions or comments on this policy? Okay, hearing none, we will move policy 3510 to second reading as well.
Okay. Proposed revisions to policy 4316, notification of threats of violence or harm, are to comply with House Bill 1216, which sets out the basic framework and creates a statewide network that provides districts with training and technical assistance to implement school-based threat assessment programs and other safety measures. The statewide network is comprised of collaborative efforts of the State Safety Center established by OSPI and the regional safety centers established at our local educational service districts. House Bill 1216 specifies that school-based threat assessment programs be consistent with a model policy that was adopted by WASDA, for which these policy revisions have now been based. Revisions to policy 4316, notification of threats of violence or harm, have been previously reviewed by the Everett Public Schools Policy Review Council, Legal Counsel, and Superintendent's Cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Okay, are there any questions or comments on this policy? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move this to second reading as well.
Thank you. And for our final policy revision is a new policy this evening, policy 6240, electronic signatures, which is presented this evening to support the efficient administration of contracts and other documents that would allow the district to begin accepting electronic signatures for such correspondence. Washington law requires that entities wanting to accept electronic signatures must adopt a policy allowing the use of such signatures with certain safeguards. This policy is proposed to comply with that requirement. Especially in the light that we are now all remote, this policy is particularly useful moving forward. The proposed new policy 6240, electronic signatures, has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Thank you. I will say this policy is probably something we should have done a while ago. And, you know, there's not many benefits of this virus, but it does prompt a few changes that make a whole lot of sense. And to me, this is one of them. I don't have any questions. Directors, do you have any questions regarding this policy? Okay, we will move policy 6240 to second reading and have a whole bunch of second readings on May 19th. Thank you very much, Larry, for all the detailed information.
Thank you.
For pulling these together. Okay, done with new business and moving on to upcoming agenda items. Dr. Salzman.
Okay, thank you. 14.0 special meeting on May 12th, 2020. At the May 12th special meeting, we'll discuss the following. Instructional review summary. 14.02 special meeting on May 14th, 2020. At the May 14th special meeting, we'll discuss the superintendent's evaluation. 14.02 regular meeting on May 19th, 2020. The following will be discussed in the regular meeting. Progress to graduation for class of 2020. 24 credit plan update. Numerous policies for second reading. The board annual regular meeting schedule for 2021-22. High school math instructional materials review. Student representative selection. Board travel. Superintendent's contract. Comprehensive financial report. 2021 WIAA membership. WSSDA resolutions. Continuous learning plan and certified contracts. That would follow and to that result.
Thank you. Okay, section 15.0 is executive or closed session, and tonight we do not have executive or closed session, which takes us to section 16.0 adjournment. Wait. Okay, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for your information.
Yep. Good night.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Be safe.
Have a great week.
Yeah, please be safe, healthy, and mentally.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
For sure.
ma'am. Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.
Good night.